Welcome to Average Arcader. I'm Chuck, and it's time for another Cost to the Boss episode, where we calculate just how much it costs enemies of video games to run their operations. And today we are going to be taking a look at another one of my all-time favorite games, Sonic the Hedgehog for Sega Genesis. Now, I am a huge Sonic fan of the old games. The newer ones, not so much. Don't get me wrong, some of the new Sonic games are good, but most of them are pretty bad and stupid. But the old games were awesome. They were fun to play, had some of the best music in them for the time, and even the main villain was cooler. Mainly because this is back when his name was Robotnik, not Eggman. Seriously though, Eggman? Of all the names they could have gave him? Why did they go with Eggman? He's a genius scientist that designs killer robots, not an omelet chef. Anyway, let's start breaking down the levels so that we can get a count of the enemies. Now, normally I count the bosses of each level, but in this game, the bosses are all the same person, Robotnik. So we're not going to worry about the boss fights. Now, the levels are divided into zones. Each zone has 3 acts that you have to go through to get through the next zone. The first zone that we will be going through is the iconic Green Hill Zone. Whenever I think of Sonic, I think of this zone. Probably because when I was younger, for the longest time, I couldn't get past Act 2 and then Act 3 of the zone. Playing back through now, I realized that younger Chuck was pretty lame. This is easy, fun, but still very easy. I don't know what was giving younger Chuck so much trouble. The platforming isn't hard, and the enemies aren't too aggressive, and they're not supposed to be. Green Hill Zone is an introduction into the game's mechanics, allowing you to get a feel for how Sonic handles so that you're ready for the more difficult zones later on. Speaking of difficult, let's move on to Marble Zone. Marble Zone still hangs on to the fun, but man, it can be difficult at times. I say difficult, I really mean tedious. You see, Sonic is a fast character. That's what he's known for. But in Marble Zone, his speed works against him. There is a lot of precise jumping in this zone, like jumping over a lava pit to land on a small piece of land, or riding a very small block over lava while dodging obstacles. You see, what makes these things tedious is the momentum that Sonic builds up whenever he moves, causing you to maybe jump a little too far sometimes, or not stop when you need to. So you have to slowly focus on each jump and obstacle, thus making it a little tedious. Let's move on to the next zone. You know, I used to confuse Spring Yard Zone with Casino Zone from Sonic 2. They both look and feel the same. Basically, you feel like you're in a giant pinball machine, and I love it. I never really had any problems getting through this zone. It's fun, a little fast-paced, but nothing too difficult. In fact, you only really have to slow down a few times throughout the whole entire zone. But all in all, a pretty straightforward and fun zone. Let's move on into the next zone. Labyrinth Zone. Oh, how I hate Labyrinth Zone. And I'm pretty sure you can guess why. It's the water. And not because you have to stop and get air constantly. No, that's understandable. It is an underwater level. But the water makes you so slow that easy to dodge things are now almost impossible to dodge. In fact, you're going to get hit a lot if you don't get your timing almost perfect when dodging certain obstacles or enemies. The only good thing about Labyrinth Zone is that you don't have a boss fight at the end. You just chase Robotnik to the next zone. I guess they figured the stress of finishing the zone would be the boss fight. I'm good with that. Let's move on to the next zone. Starlight Zone is my favorite zone in the game. I love everything about this zone, from the music, the level design, and even the boss fight at the end. You get to jump on these little seesaw things. It's pretty cool. Now, you would think for the second to last zone of the game that it would be pretty hard to get through, but it's not. In fact, it's a pretty laid-back level, and I think I know why. You see, the developers wanted us to get a chance to rest and catch our breath before throwing us into this ridiculous zone. Scrap Bane Zone was the bane of my existence when I was first trying to run through this as a kid. To tell you the truth, it wasn't that easy for me now as an adult. This zone throws everything it can at you. Saw blades, electricity, flames, bottomless pits, and anything else ridiculous you can think of. And you know what your reward is for fighting through all of that? You get thrown back into the water for the final act. Yay! Let's just go to the takedown counter to see how many enemies we engaged with. So, in our playthrough of Sonic the Hedgehog, we fought a total of 289 enemies. Not bad. Now it's time to count the costs. Now before we count the costs, we need to first figure out what the costs are. Now, just like every old game from this time, it's really hard to find lore that will help us figure out the cost. In fact, I couldn't really find anything at all, so I'll have to use a real-world reference. Now, in the game, Dr. Robotnik would take live animals and somehow turn them into robots. We can't do that in the real world, so I'll just use actual robots as a reference. So after doing a little bit of research, I found out that robots that could perform like the robots in the game do would cost around $100,000 each to make. And because they're combat robots, they would require constant maintenance. We're talking about $1,000 worth of maintenance a month for each robot. And all that's basically materials. That's not labor to actually work on them. So, his initial cost to make the robots would have been around $28,900,000. And the maintenance on them would have been $289,000 a month and $3,468,000 a year. If he can spend this kind of money regularly, what does he need to take over the world for? Seems like a waste of money and time to me. I mean, he's already rich. What else does he want? And that's it for this episode of Cost to the Boss. Thanks for watching. If you have any ideas for games we should cover on the show, please leave them in the descriptions below. But until next time, I'm Chuck. This is Average Arcader. Have a nice day.